So welcome for everyone that is going to be tuning in the next few minutes, I hope. It's a Friday live ping pong show where tonight we will be talking about the performance pathways in the UK and all the different table tennis programs available to everyone at all ages. So we're going to go through and introduce one by one who's on our panel tonight. And so first of all, we've got Jack.
Hi guys, Jack. Played table tennis all my life really, family will play. Played England junior and then went to University of Derby, and now I'm playing British League for Bats, and that's about it really.
VIDAL?
Yeah, VIDAL Graham, head coach at Grantham College Table Tennis Academy. My life was based around table tennis from about the age of 14, always at probably the #1 club in England, which was London Progress.
Zach?
Hi, I'm Zach CANTOR. I'm number 26 in England currently. I started taking table tennis more seriously when I finished juniors, and I'm 21 now.
Excellent. And Alex?
Good. Yeah. Hi everyone. Alex Green here. Played for England schoolboys. Represented England twice on trips to Saudi Arabia. Coached for TTK Greenhouse and Table Tennis England. Now I'm the primary sports enrichment manager for the David Ross Education Trust.
Excellent. And yeah, I'm Liam McTiernan, and I was in the England squad when I was 18, and then went to Nottingham University, and I'm now working full time. So we've now got 15 viewers, which isn't bad for the first minute, and we hope that ramps up. So essentially, for all those people watching, and just to say again, this episode will be looking at the main performance pathways and table tennis options for people of all ages in the country, and we're going to get a useful perspective one by one from all the members of the panel and their experience and what programs they've been involved with. Then in the second half, we invite questions, and by all means, type your questions away, and we'll debate and sort of answer the questions that are put in. So I think a useful thing to point out before we kick off is someone with the members on this panel. You could almost go from age 11, starting at Charles Reed Academy, which is a program Alex is involved with, straight up to university, like me and Jack were at. So we're covering a lot of bases tonight, so it should be a very, very useful session. And likewise, the question came about because on the Pitch and Pool show, when Matt Stanforth went on, he talked, very, very insightfully about all the different sort of the selection, the England squad, and very much about the University of Nottingham, which obviously I love. However, we're here to also talk about the other programs available to a massive wide range of people. So to kick us off, I think, Alex, do you want to talk about the programs you've been involved with and your experience, and we can all chip in?
Absolutely. So obviously I've been out of the game probably since 2012 as a coach, but and branched out more into general sports development. But a program now that I work on is the Charles Reed Performance Centre Table Tennis program, and that's obviously linked to the David Ross Education Trust. So David Ross is probably quite a well-known name in table tennis because of the amount of competitions that happen at the David Ross Sports Village. But people probably don't really know who David Ross is. He's a former alumni of the University of Nottingham. He's on a committee at the University of Nottingham to actively promote the university, and he had an active involvement in obviously that sports village being set up, and contributed a lot of money towards that being obviously established. So he's an entrepreneur, so he started Carphone Warehouse jointly with a friend of his. But he's also obviously set our Academy Trust up in 2007. And his real vision is really one of actually having a sort of a private school enrichment program in state schools. So when he started our Education Trust, he saw all the added values of having an amazing enrichment program within our schools, and sport and the arts is a pillar of all of our schools. So I think it's important to note that to start off with, it was very much around building the profile of sport in all of our schools. So building the base up, getting children more interested in sport, and with that obviously was involved increasing the number of clubs, increasing the amount of fixtures that the children were attending. But kind of what came of that really was, as the kind of the broad base started to build and more children got involved in sport, we obviously wanted to delve into the performance pathways. And we do have a number of performance pathways in the trust. We have a football programme, 2 football programmes that are linked to football clubs. We obviously have a basketball programme with Leicester Riders. We have a netball programme with Loughborough Lightning. But we had a school in Charles Reid that were very keen on table tennis. And basically, obviously, Charles Reid's very close to Grantham. So there was an obvious link there to start off with a successful programme with Grantham College Table Tennis Academy that we could start to establish and work with a partner on. So our programme, another reason why it came about is Tom Jarvis used to be a student at Skegness Grammar School, and he was travelling over to the college pretty much every day from year 9 all the way up to year 11 to access his training. And we felt that was starting to happen with another one of our students, who was Darcy Proud, who was in the England setup at table tennis as well. And we thought, these kids are travelling a long way to access their training, and can we do something, obviously, at Charles Reid and with the college? So our programme, you can access it from 11 years old. You can actually access it younger, because we have a primary school, a David Ross Education Trust primary school, very close to Charles Reid. But most players come in at sort of 11, 12 years old. How it works is they come into the school. It's an Ofsted good school. It has a very supportive head whose son is actually on the pathway for British gymnastics. So she kind of understands what it takes to be a young up-and-coming athlete. The school on the teaching staff, has a former junior national champion, Suzanne Airy. So she's a great member of staff for us there as well to support the scholars. And they access 8 hours worth of training at the school. So up to 8 hours at the school. That involves them coming out of lessons in the afternoon to do their training. And the Grantham College coaches come in and train the students in the afternoon. And that kind of is around sort of small group session work, which younger players need, and obviously also like accessing multi-ball as well, and some one-to-one work that goes on in that time frame at the school. They also have.
How many students are there, or how many pupils and table tennis players are there currently?
At the moment, we have 3 players there. We've had up to kind of 6, 7 players there in the past, all training. So it's a small environment for the players to get like that kind of individual attention. And what we like about it is the bigger environment is then being able to access the college, where they've got like 30 players. And I think what's good about it is that the college obviously was a programme only for 16-year-olds, and it's obviously opened the programme up for those younger players to join already. So they also have like strength and conditioning sessions that happen at the school as well, that are very important, obviously, when you're a young player.
And logistically, I think it's probably important to note that at one point when there was, I don't know, it may still be going, but they had a house with a lot of table tennis players that communally shared a house, and they were able to, they came from all over the country to go to this school and perform at the highest level. Is that right?
Yeah, so we don't have our own accommodation ourselves, but they basically live with a host family. And we've had a number of host families involved in the programme. So players that join us, they basically access their own host families, which we've obviously, there are a number in the town that have done it. So they come, some of them live together, some of them have lived on their own as well. Depends what really suits them. Some people like, obviously, the community of being around other table tennis players. Some players obviously want to kind of have their own time as well. And obviously the families that support with that, they really enjoy having the scholars as well.
And then I guess, so obviously Childhood is, one place where kids could go at the ages of 11 to 16 or 11 to 18. And I guess what other sort of options are there for people who maybe don't want to move that far or in the country? Because I remember when I was a cadet, Penile used to be a good school for table tennis. But what other options are there?
I think obviously in the past, and still going now, there's obviously been Aquif that was established by Table Tennis England, which I know they don't have involvement directly with anymore. But yeah. I know that that's still going as a full-time kind of platform where players can play. And ultimately, I think that's only a good thing. With programs of this nature, obviously within this country, there are some clubs that have established pathways all the way through, but there are also a lot of clubs that are maybe fantastic at starting players off, but they can only access their facility, a couple of hours a week, and we really actively want to kind of work with those clubs. We don't want them to see it that we're kind of taking their players. It's more that if they think they've got a player that's maybe they can't sort of support further in their journey, that's very much where a pathway like ours really does work. We've had players, come from all over the country. Yeah. We've had players come from Cornwall to access the program. And, if they're in that rural environment, rather a Tom Jarvis who's from Skegness, it's a long way to a central area to get your training.
And then I guess when, hypothetically speaking, on this sort of hypothetical pathway, when a child gets to 16 years old, they could offboard to Grantham College. So that seems like a good transition into VIDAL's part of advertising. What do you offer at Grantham College, and how does it serve as a pathway in the UK?
Well, what we offer basically is a program that you can access 20 to 25 hours a week of full-time training. That's one-to-ones during the week, during the school day, and then obviously evening sessions every evening, with a full squad of up to about 27, 28 players, all of quite a decent standard. So it makes practice quite conducive and quite good for yourself, along with a very good education. I mean, we go through straight from your lower sort of your BTECs all the way through up to you can do your HND, so you can cover your first 2 years of university, even at the college as well, if you want to stay on. So we have a pathway that it kind of suits everybody. And I mean, you don't have to be the best player in the country, but when you're accessing quality hours with quality coaches, the progression is always going to be there. I think that's been proven in the past with the amount of players, 220 players that have come through the academy. Some of them still now play for England, some of them play for teams abroad, and it's kind of that pathway. I think us having that link with Charles Reed means that we can access some of the best kids in the country at a younger age and really help them, and ideally almost help them along that pathway that necessarily they might not even come to Grantham. At 16, they might be able to then make it straight abroad, That could be the end goal.
And I guess, as much as we all and want to promote the pathways we've all been involved with, I know that Bristol's another academy.
Yeah.
What other options are there for people that, out in the UK?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, for me, I think, Bristol Academy is one, definitely. They've always had sort of a strong table tennis sort of in the past, with some very good players coming through there as well. And I think our college, obviously, I'd love players to come, but it might not be the right place for some people. I think whatever opportunities you can get, you've got to go to where sort of the best table tennis is for you, and if you're a parent, for your child. And the main thing I would say is just look at sort of your club environment, ask the coaches if you can still play that magic number 10, 15, 20 hours a week, of quality practice. Doesn't mean that you're going into the hall and just wasting time. You want that quality time on the table.
Yeah, and I think it's important. I can vouch. I know lots of people, friends that have been to Grantham, and some have gone on to top universities. Some have gone to trades, having done a BTEC or an apprenticeship, and some have become full-time table tennis players. So it is very much down to the individual, but it provides a platform for the opportunity to sort of go into, well, I guess whatever you want. And then I guess nice. Oh, sorry. The last question I was actually going to ask is, how does Grantham interact with Table Tennis England? And I know there's been talk of a national centre on previous discussions, and sort of if you wanted to bring that into the conversation, where does it sit?
It doesn't. Yeah, we are our own entity, basically. We have many players that come from all over many different countries. So we've got national team players for England, Scotland, Wales, Malta, We've got all those national team players, but we don't actually sit under any guidance from Table Tennis England. Obviously, some of our players do play for England, and then they go off to their squads. But we don't often have the England coaches always come through to us.
Do you think you'd like to see? Do you think it's fair to say that you'd like to see more sort of collaboration?
Yeah, definitely. I think, why not? I think that there is a performance pathway sort of written out there that's on the Table Tennis England website. I think I think we should be part of that somewhere along that scale. I don't think it's just us though. I think that anywhere that has like players, say within sort of like the top 30 of England, I think the coaches should be out there at those local clubs trying to help those players along. It's not a fact that they should always just go to the once a month training. Like, the coaches actually take part in the club setup and have that conversation with the coaches at the clubs as well.
I guess that the hope might be there now, or it may be slightly easier or we can hope anyway, because obviously Gavin Evans, the senior coach, used to be the head coach of Grantham, so you'd hope that there would be some remaining ties there. But actually, nice transition on for someone that went to Grantham College and is now at Peterborough Archway Table Tennis Club. Zach, do you want to talk about your experience and what Peterborough has to offer and how Grantham was for you?
Yeah, can do, mate. So Peterborough is obviously it's a full-time table tennis academy, and there's pathways for we've got 5-6-year-old kids that have started playing there now through a new program with Table Tennis England, TT for Kids, and then those kids have started playing and they're into the academy. Then we've got sessions for the development squad, which has some new juniors that we've recruited and I think some cadets. And then we've got the top squad, the academy squad, where there's a group of like 10 of us. And yeah, it's a great environment to be in as well, because everyone's like pushing to try and be better. And then there's the kids who want to be in that squad and that squad, there's a whole system there. And not just that, Peterborough offers a lot of like life skills. So for example, one of our players is like, he's been blessed with the opportunity to play table tennis full time and do like his accountancy, for example, on the side, linked with the club that they're helping him do that. And I'm wanting to be a coach, for example, when I'm older. So, and the club are helping me do that as well. And I'd like to think I've improved a bit there as well. And the coaching is fantastic there, like, to be honest, in my opinion anyway. Yeah.
Actually, I guess it's an interesting point to call out was that in the last few years, I think it's fair to say that you've improved, a lot from where you first were. And actually, a lot of people have to start super early to get to a certain level. And actually, you've gone through these programs, Grantham and now Peterborough, and actually, you are that glimmer of light for those that are starting late and want to get to the top level in the UK. So. Yeah, that's
cheers.
How was
Thank
that?
you.
How was your experience at Grantham as well, as a player?
Grantham, as a player, yeah. So I was there for like 1.5 years.
Okay.
The first year was one of my biggest ever jumps, like as a player in terms of standard. Like I went there at like 200 in men's, something like that, and after a year, I was already at like 50. And then my second year, I didn't really improve at all, and there's different reasons for that, whatever. But I went down a bit as well. But the first year, it was fantastic. Like the training was just unbelievable. like everyone, the way it was done as well, like all the sessions, I really enjoyed it.
And I think,
yeah.
you know, because we've had a conversation about Peterborough, you know, in the past, and I think for those watching, there's certainly a gap in the market and a sort of a target audience that Peterborough would be perfect for. As in, if, for example, on the Pitch and Pool show the other day, they talked, I think someone messaged in and said, what if you're a plumber living somewhere and you want to play table tennis? Well, you could, you know, move to Peterborough. You could still be a plumber in Peterborough, play full time as well. Actually, also those that are finishing A-levels, let's say, who don't want to go to university, and they might want to do an occupation, or they may want to train to be a coach, or they may just want to play table tennis full time for a year or two. And Peterborough is the only place in the UK, I think, I'm not 100% on that, and if anyone knows otherwise, please let me know.
Yeah, it's wrong. Grantham also as well, and any of the college, Bristol Academy as well. Yeah. They all offer vocational courses if you want to do plumbing, bricklaying, or any of those other types of vocational courses. And
if you wanted to just play table tennis, nothing else, you could go to Peterborough like some players, and you know, and just played. So that's a very good sort of program that's emerged very strongly in the last years. I know it's
another good thing as well. Another thing that I like at Peterborough as well is that like the standard of the top players are very strong. Like the Premier team, then like the academy team, and the level of and the experience that the coaches have as well. Like is ridiculous. Like to be fair,
definitely. And then, I think so. Let's say so. Now we've gone through the pathway. We've started at Charles Reed in year 7. We've gone through to Grantham, and then we've had the choice of Peterborough or not. But if you wanted to go to university, you could, and that's where me and Jack can give our insight. So I think I'll let Jack go first, because too much light is probably put on University of Nottingham, although they have really made their space in the last few years, and that's, you know, good to them. However, you can still play table tennis if you don't go to University of Nottingham. And Jack, I'll let him tell his story, is a perfect example of that.
Yeah, of course. I mean, Liam, I think you're going to touch upon it well with regards to the Nottingham, so I'll leave that to you. But like you say, I think there is a lot of focus at university level on the University of Nottingham, rightly so, because the table tennis there is fantastic. But for a lot of people that they want to go down the route of education and maybe going full-time, table tennis isn't a viable option for them because their studies are important, or they want to make a career somewhere else, then university is the way that you're going to go. But like you say, University of Nottingham is one uni at the end of the day. Some people haven't got necessarily the grades to get there. I mean, for me personally, they didn't do the course I wanted to do. Yeah. So that was one restricting factor. And I think that, it should be known that there are other ways of still maintaining the table tennis. And I don't want to speak, I mean, I went to University of Derby, it's just down the road from Nottingham. But there are ways that you can still maintain a good level at university or in education, post Grantham, etc., at other universities where they do give you the support. So, I mean, from my personal experience, I couldn't speak highly enough of the University of Derby. Yeah. Now, I didn't necessarily have on my doorstep the level of maybe practice partners, a number of training sessions in that sense as the University of Nottingham. But in terms of the other aspects that university has to offer, I had it probably equal, if not as good, of University of Nottingham. So I was fortunate enough to be on a sports scholarship, following on from my table tennis at junior level. So not only did I have assistance with funding, I had weekly strength and conditioning sessions, sports psychology sessions. Also, another thing that I think was very valuable, certainly at university level, is that balance of I had sessions on managing my time with still competing at a good level and still doing my studies. And I think that, I mean, University of Nottingham definitely does that, and it has the training as well. But other unis do have it to offer. And they also assisted me with regards to getting around to travel to train at other places. Also bringing in practice partners from elsewhere. I mean, I was fortunate enough the time that I was there, they actually brought in, and you'll know him well, a few people I'm sure that watch him might know his name, Peter Biza from the Czech Republic. Again, nobody would have had a clue who he was before we went to university. And the university also got him on a sports scholarship for table tennis. He used to play for the Czech Republic junior level. And that was someone that I had there as a training partner for my full 3 years of uni, all due to the fact that the university were there to support me with my sport. Now, it's not necessarily a university that's well known for its table tennis, but they wanted to push sport, and they gave me that sort of platform to still maintain my level and compete at table tennis.
So if a person finishing their A levels messaged you, for example, after the show, which by the way, if you're watching, I definitely encourage, if you've got any questions, to message personally. And likewise, if you message in the comments, we can answer them straight away. If a person finishing their A levels, messaged you and said, Nottingham isn't on my agenda, not going to play. I'm nervous about whether I can continue playing table tennis at a high level, like a British League Championship or Prem, or equivalent levels to yourself. What would you say to them?
I would say that it's not the end of the world if you can't go to the University of Nottingham. If you still want to study, I mean, I'm not going to say that it's necessarily easy at another uni, because although they do give you all of those benefits, I still had to do a lot off my own back in terms of going out there to find my own training and stuff. But at the same time, I had a great experience at my university, and the fact that I made friends there that were outside of the world of table tennis, so I could actually still have that part of my life and enjoy my university time, but at the same time I could still go off and do my table tennis thing on my own time. So I think it's not necessarily, I mean, obviously we all want to be the best that we can be and still play at a high level, but for some people it's not necessarily the end of the world if you don't have the best training in the world. It's whatever you sort of are comfortable with and what that works for you. I mean, because at University of Derby, I mean, I can't say whether being at the University of Nottingham I would be any better than I would now.
Exactly. Right. So actually coming on to that, what I want is, because this has been an ongoing topic on all these podcasts, the why is junior to senior retention so bad, and why people like you and I still play when some of our age group don't anymore. So I'm going to ask, why do you still play? And without making it a completely loaded question, has university and playing table tennis at university almost made it more enjoyable?
I mean, I think at the end of the day, I mean, you've said it there yourself, I play table tennis because I enjoy playing table tennis. I'm not set on being world number one anymore. Like when you're at a junior level, you're a cadet, that you're like, oh, that's who I want to be when I'm older. But I think so much pressure is put on. I mean, talking from my age group, and you know it well. I mean, I'll pick out a few names out of the hat. So me, you, Gabriel, all people that are still playing today, and I would say enjoy table tennis. And we play because we enjoy it. Yes, we've had good support with the universities, etc. But I think there's been people out there, I mean, you've had Danny on many times, so much pressure was put on them at junior level, the same as us. And if they didn't find a way of enjoying it, that's where it can often be lost. So actually, it was probably for the best for me going to the University of Derby that there wasn't so much pressure on the table tennis. I could play and enjoy it, and actually found myself going out and looking for practice because I wanted to and because I enjoyed to play, not because I felt like I had to. And
ironically, from an outside perspective, I think you've definitely gotten better now that you're more relaxed, more enjoying it, and actually, it may, that there is a sort of
there is that side of it. I mean, and for some people, maybe you do need that intensity and you do need that, but I think you do have the opportunity that actually. I mean, I can't say that I've had as good practice as you and Gabriel, let's say, over the years at university, but I don't feel like I'm in any worse of a position because of that.
Exactly.
And actually, can I just ask a little one on that, Liam, as well? So, this is kind of for both of you at uni as well. When you're now at university level, sort of like how much sort of hours can you sort of access of practice time at university?
Jack, you want to...
Well, I mean, because I think it's going to be different for me and you. Exactly. I mean, the way that I would put it for me was, in terms of table time, it's hard and it's down to you. I mean, in terms of what I play at uni, I'd play 2 hours a week at uni. So it's not a lot, plus Bucks matches. Which
how much could you have played? Like if you had a practice,
I could have played 4 to 6.
Okay.
There's not enough people otherwise for me to play with. Otherwise, we'd be playing with the same people for hours and hours on end. But at the same time, at points, certainly my first year when I had more time, I could be playing upwards of 8-10 hours a week. Where I was travelling out, linked with other clubs. So I did a lot for Burton Table Tennis Club, Burton and Uxbridge.
Yeah.
So I'd go and have sessions coaching, and then on the back of that, I'd get some one-to-ones. Douglas did quite a lot of one-to-ones with me, but that was more me going out on my own back.
And then I guess,
how's that compared to you, Liv?
yeah, so that's a good sort of transition on to me talking about Nottingham. So I, like I said at the beginning, I was in England under-18 squad, and then I sort of had a mini break in A-levels to get my exams out of the way. And then I went to Nottingham University, and the first part I'm going to talk about is the resources and all the stuff available, and that it is a good university to go to for table tennis now. But then, after I've talked about that, I'm going to come back and maybe take down some of those sort of glistening perspectives that a lot of people have, because and give people some other insight. So first of all, the university, I think you are able to have one-to-ones with Kelly Sibley and other practice partners. I had one-to-ones with Alan Cook when I was there in my first year or two. Then you've got a good sort of 8 to 10 hours scheduled training practice sessions that you can attend to a week, 8 to 10 hours. Then sort of you can message. There's lots of players there, so you can just book out courts yourself, and they're not always, you can always probably get a court as long as you book in advance. So technically, sky's the limit if you've got a practice partner and can train a lot with. We've had one question, which is how strong are the uni leagues? Fair point. They're probably as strong as local leagues. However, it is unbelievably more enjoyable because you are playing with university friends. You're going there, and it's a trip away for the day on a Wednesday afternoon, no lectures. So it's actually really enjoyable. So that's, and I know Jack's found the same. Then in terms of other opportunities, so I represented on 3 occasions Nottingham University at the European University Championships. So that's a chance to go abroad and to play other countries. And I'm actually wearing the top. We got. I dusted the cobwebs out of it. No, I'm joking. I wear it all the time. It's my favourite top.
I was going to say, Liv, you never take it off.
yeah. I still haven't let go. Graduated 3 years ago. So they have that opportunity. We also went to China twice and trained over there, which was which was sort of partially funded by a lot of our scholarships. And every university will give a table tennis player, as long as they're at a certain standard, the opportunity to get a scholarship. So that's really good, that sort of support. So the program, is very good, and you can look at all the details online. But to bring down the sort of curtains a bit, I understand that not everyone can get the grades, and that's something I was terribly anxious about because I'd never got A's and stuff. I had to work the hardest I've ever worked in anything to get into the university, and I didn't even choose it because of table tennis. I chose it because it was the best for economics, right? When I joined Nottingham, it was me, Yolanda, Tressa Armitage, and Paul McCreary. That's it. 4 players, no one else. So it wasn't this built-up, glistening program that I just described. And what happened was, when I went in the first year, we went to training. I trained with those guys. It was decent practice. You had a couple of people to train with. However, and this should give faith to anyone that is going to any university. From that year, I then had lots of friends, sort of like Gabriel, Maria, a few other people that then came through to the university. And the program was building up, the profile was building up. So I took it upon myself to create the social media programs out there, platforms out there, to sort of promote the university and just sort of show people what we had, because the program was building up and investment was slowly coming through. But most importantly, I spoke to people. I spoke to so many people and said, look, the university, it's a good mix. We got some players there. And then guess what? It was this clustering effect. But the year after, you had a couple more players. And the year after that, you had a couple more. And if you see the photos each year, from the 4 that it was in 2014 when I joined to now, it's grown astronomically. And although they've had the investment, which they have, which has made things slightly easier, I still 100% believe that if anyone is looking to go to university and wants to do the same thing with their university, you can do it. And I would almost recommend, message me and I'll give you some pointers. Because all it is attracting people to come. And if you've got enough players, then you create your own investment, you create your own sessions, you attract more people, and it just becomes bigger. So some people might not know this, but 2012, 2011, so 3 or 4 years before I joined, Nottingham Trent was the university to go to. As much as it pains me to say that, Nottingham Trent was the university to go to. They had Sean Cullen, Duran, top 20 men players. Their programme was very good and everything. Things come into cycles. They potentially didn't do enough to retain a good enough people coming through and people on courses because it's cyclical. But, it's just a great example of the fact that Nottingham's great. It's great now, but other universities, you can create it, or it goes in cycles. So
I think that's interesting there, Liam, is the fact that a lot of those players. So I was involved a lot with Grantham around kind of 11, 12. I was coaching with Alex Perry there. That was before he went to the Uni of Nottingham, and a lot of the players like Imran Hussain, they went to Trent from Grantham College. So the pathways, they're not a million miles apart. Peterborough's quite close to Grantham. Nottingham's really close to Grantham. Derby's really close to Nottingham. You can have like a central hub there, which is central for the country, really, for players to go to. But likewise, what you're saying there about the universities, a lot of, we spoke about this, but a lot of junior and younger players, even like players trying to get the information out there earlier, a lot of young players don't realise what opportunities there are. What Jack's talking about with Derby there. There are still many opportunities to work with specialists who can help you with your game while you're studying.
I think that's really important. Like what Alex was saying earlier as well, is that if you're a young player now, a cadet or a junior, and you're struggling to access that 6 hours a week or so, but you really have that strive to want to be better, you've really got to outsource, have that talk with your coach as well about what are the other options out there that I might be able to travel somewhere and then access that 10, 15, 20 hours a week to be able to get there, I think it's our job as coaches to sort of enlighten everybody and all the opportunities there are out there for players to go to.
I think one thing that I would like just to add to, obviously Alex mentioned there that there's you've got a central area of a hub. The one thing that I would say that's a little bit of a restriction at the moment, which I would have liked to have seen at time at university, but it didn't quite happen, was there is an element with university, because there is quite a lot of money and funding involved, that it is very much competitive, and unis are single identities. So if myself, or let's say at the time you had at Loughborough, Lois Peak, Jared Patel, it would be very difficult to train with other universities, purely on the basis that they were almost not willing to let other players into their university, which I think is a big trick missed. It would have been a great opportunity to have a centralised hub, as you were. I mean, and I'm sure it will lead on later to the debate around the under-21 squad, etc. That when you do leave juniors, that you then become part of whatever university or Peterborough club it is that you join, and there's not that much integration between players.
Yeah.
So it can be for everyone and anyone, whether it's a university player or a club player, and it's good for people to aim for as well, isn't it? Really?
Yeah.
Definitely. I think so. Before we move on, because I am gonna sort of share my screen and show you something interesting, but I just address a couple of the quick fire questions that are coming through, just to talk about stuff. So, firstly, Mike Marsden has rightly said Peterborough have had the opportunity to go to China. Unfortunately, COVID meant they couldn't, but the opportunity was there, so that's a good thing for them. What's the selection process for Nottingham Uni Table Tennis Club? Essentially, you apply for a course just at any university, you get the grades, and you get there, you go to a trial, and they assess your ability and put you into a team, and then you have access to all the training. Lastly, Ross Brown said, Nottingham's always had a strong alumni. Alex Perry, Deng Yiping. Look, Alex Perry, Director of Sport at Nottingham, really good. He has played a pivotal role. So, in terms of getting that investment through. However, in terms of alumni, although they are very, very good alumni, I wouldn't say that, it's other universities like Loughborough, like Trent, have also had equally pretty good alumni. So it's not necessarily singles out Nottingham as why that's the place to be. However, at the moment the program is exceptional. Now, the point I want to go on to and move the discussion in this way is the reason we're talking about pathways is because on the other podcast that was out there when Matt Stanforth spoke, he spoke about how to get into the England squad, and what are the options to play table tennis in the UK. So we've also had a question. So I'm actually going to show everyone the pathway, the Table Tennis England performance pathway that's currently on their website, and I'm going to supplement it with the question that was asked on our show. I'll say it in a minute, but we'll get this up first. So,
It'll be nice and interesting.
Yeah. So, Alex, do you want to talk about this while I'm trying to share it?
Yeah, I think it's just interesting, kind of we're talking about, and that was a good one there, Jack, where you said about working together with the universities, because if that can be discussed, that can be brought to the table. Obviously, there's a smaller pool of players at that age group, so training together, for example, would and I suppose when I played, I was lucky they had a task program which was kind of aimed at HE players, and I was lucky enough to kind of be involved in that to start off where we had training camps come together, where the likes of Craig Bryant, Bryn Drinkall, Ellie Baratty was on that. We used to train at Lilleshall together. So more of that where you're getting together an older age group and you're still having that kind of junior community. Is definitely much needed.
Yeah, definitely. So I think so this is on the Table Tennis England website right now and is the performance pathway. So let's just have a discussion on one, how accurate it is, what could be improved, and offer some solutions. And secondly, Richard Copeland messaged in prior to the show and said there seems to be little chance of players breaking into the England senior squad. If there was a senior second or third team playing other national second or third teams, would this aspire you or players coming out of the juniors to get into that squad? So, who wants to sort of talk through this performance path and see how accurate it is?
I mean,
I'll go on.
Do you want to go, Zach?
No, you go on, mate. Go for it.
I mean, this is obviously on their website. We believe it's out of date. However, what I would say about this document here, it is a great diagram. It's a great document, but half of these balls don't actually exist, and this has obviously been placed on the website. And then, some of these elements, I don't know if they've worked on them or if they haven't worked on them, but it's kind of, so we've got things like England under-21 squad. Jack, have you ever heard of that with you and your brother?
I mean, after juniors, I can't. I mean, and Liam will speak the same, I'm sure, and Zach being at that category now. After juniors, that's pretty much it, unless you're the top 4 seniors.
I think it's a great idea. It's
a brilliant idea.
That looks great on the page.
Yeah, it looks good on the page, absolutely. But I don't actually think that that's unachievable. I spoke about kind of an experience I had when TAS funding first came in. They actually, this would have been, 2004 maybe. When athletes first got TAS funding, they actually almost did create an under-21 squad. It was Kevin Satchell used to run it with Sally Schutt, and it used to happen at Lilleshall. And you had players like Greg Baker there, who obviously now works with the Power Squad. Craig Bryant was there. Bryn Drinkall was on it. Katie Parker came to it. Natalie Borden, Natalie Green, my wife, she was on it. They did try and bring together a group of players back in the early noughties. And actually it was really good, and it carried on that kind of community. But I don't think they've ever done anything since then, really on around that under-21 squad.
No, it's a shame really as well, because if you think of like any sort of pathway, our end goal is obviously to get to that GB Olympic team in that top right-hand corner there. And so for us to be able to get there, these are the necessary steps that you need to go through, but we're just missing a load, like the England under-21 squad. That could range
feel
down
like
up there, and then up to England development squad as well, which I think would be really, really good. Have a hub of sort of like 12 players in there, 12, 15 players in there, you know, striving to practice. I think this is something that sort of like Paul and Liam sort of like commented on their show, is by having that national centre, this could actually probably be put in place. But without a national centre, it makes it very difficult. I mean, if the England coaches are basing themselves at Nottingham, they have to work around all of the other sessions that are going on with the university at the moment. So without sort of like a central hub, it's too difficult, really.
Although I think one thing I'd like to debate, because I don't know how comfortable I feel with overseas clubs being a sort of necessity that you have to then get into the senior squads, which I think is what this graphic is alluding to. Obviously, other people have come on and said only professional table tennis players should be picked for England, which hasn't always been the case in the women's. What's your opinion on sort of, do you think overseas clubs should be there as a necessity?
I mean, Zach, you mentioned that before the call.
About what? Sorry,
like overseas. I mean, the way that I'm seeing it as well is, you correct me if I'm wrong, but that graphic to me makes it look like in order to make it to the end goal, like Vidal's mentioned, that you have to go via the route of overseas clubs. Now,
it looks like you can't get into the under-21 squad unless you play for an overseas.
Yeah, unless you've skipped over and you've done your few seasons abroad. Now, at the end of the day, you know, it's all great if we can make it to the GB Olympic team, but you're going to have a life after that, and it's what you can do in between. So it would be interesting to, you know, if there was another route almost to that graph where you could go down the route where you can still get an education. I mean, Grantham's given you that opportunity, even right down with the ones that Alex is involved with lower down. Who's to say that you can't then continue at university level or higher education, or even working and still progress along that?
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting to see maybe how many people at university still play for clubs abroad as well.
Yeah, that's a good start.
A lot of people do fly out for the weekend and come. It's not necessary. I don't think it necessarily means that with the overseas clubs that you have to move abroad. You know, I think it's just a good option to be able to play matches abroad, to have that sort of like European sort of like experience as well, playing under sort of like different sort of pressures, which we try to like get our juniors to do it. Competitions now, and I think the natural step would be for them to play those matches, to get those, just to feel like you're actually playing in Europe, that different sort of pressure, to then come back to England and hopefully take that up into the squad with you. You know?
And it's different. It's different as well going abroad. Like when you're playing, if you're playing in a league abroad, it completely motivates you, like to like realize that you can like climb up the divisions and stuff, and the styles and all that kind of stuff. Like, it's good
the
to
standard
go.
as well, you know, the standard in
it's
a lot of other
exactly, like climbing up
higher,
so,
you know, in their league.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think so. Actually, we just got a comment here from Gareth Herbert. So and it's a very good one. I feel like I should share. So it's a good show, guys. For me, the key is that we all communicate with one another. We're all trying to achieve the same thing, which is to improve the standard of table tennis in England, which is possible. And I know this is a lot of work, but can be done. And I completely agree, which is almost exactly why we're having this call. And I definitely encourage Table Tennis England or Grantham or whoever to keep the communication between multiple universities, to multiple programs, to whatever, because, you know, you're right. We've all got one goal, which is to keep people in the sport, keep people enjoying it, and raising the level. So that's and I guess coming on to that second. Wait, sorry, Alex, do you have something to comment on that?
No. So I think it's in that diagram. I think actually, you know, the concept of it's very good.
Yes.
You know, should some of those balls like move around, etc. I know like they're probably going to relook at it and restructure it potentially, but it's more the things that have never existed and they're displayed on there. And I think also, looking at the pathway which produced players, in the past in this country, was very much around like a hybrid system. It was around, in some areas you had fantastic clubs like Ormsby, for example, and in other areas you had very strong regions, like in the East Midlands where I'm from. So I just said in the East Midlands it was less powerhouse clubs. It was more clubs maybe just producing sort of one or two players, but everyone came together in the regional setup, and they established high performance centres for our region. I mean, just to I span like a few like eras really, and just to kind of give you a bit of a lowdown. And it was interesting hearing Paul and Liam, because it's a shame they didn't give a little bit more detail on how they came through. I first came into contact with Paul Drinkall in the year 2000 at a Selby two-star competition. He would have been about 10 years old, and he was a fantastic player. His stroke making, flowing between shots, was it was unbelievable. But he was playing for Ormsby, and he had a number of players that were older than him. Paul Costello, Martin Clark, Bailey, Bryn Drinkall, and they trained together as a unit. And then I carried on kind of moving through. I played in the North British League, Division 1, for a number of seasons. And I know that they had a team which was Keith Rogers, the late Keith Rogers, who used to play for Scotland. He played at 1 for them. Bryn played at 2, Bailey 3, Paul Drinkall 4. And what I'm trying to get at is basically Paul, when he was 12 years old, he was, when he was 10 years old, he was probably one of the best players in Europe. But he'd been produced in England. And when he was like 12 years old, he was still one of the best players in Europe. Yeah. And it's interesting, like obviously Liam Pitchford, again, Liam, I did come into contact with him because my coach was from Chesterfield. And I used to go down to Colin Deaton to practice my best man, who was Will Cooney. And Liam used to be there as a very young kid, but he also trained with the East Midlands High Performance Centre twice a week with Alex Perry and Nicola Deaton. And at the time, we used to go to the college, and we used to go over in a car. It was Craig Bryan, myself, Natalie Borden, and the late Kenny Lindsay. Sometimes Will Cooney would go, and we'd go over in a car, and they would be very young. Like there was Sean Cullen, Danny Lowe, Chris Duran. They were all very young, but we were probably like 18, 19 years old. And they were probably 9 or 10 years old. But I think it's very important to look at every single step along a journey that gets you to where you are. And obviously, like Gavin Evans used to train in those sessions. He used to train with the older players, the likes of obviously Craig, Kenny Lindsay, myself, etc. And retrospectively, what I'm trying to get at is obviously you need players of all levels, basically, to be able to get through the system.
And I think so. What you've just said there is almost directly answering the question we've had in, and also someone else. So Fraser Riley has also messaged in pretty much the exact same question that was put on Facebook, which you just answered pretty much amazingly there. What do you guys think about the possibility of England introducing that Chinese hierarchical system where you get a first team, a second team, a third team, maybe the under-21 team as well in there? What do you think about that as an idea? Would it? I guess let's go to Zach and Jack, especially Zach, because under-21 medalist at the Nationals. It may be something. Would that be of interest to you? And likewise, me and Jack can sort of pitch in whether it would be interesting to us. And is it a good idea
to have an under-21s national squad?
Have an under-21s national squad and a senior second team and senior third team.
Yeah. 100%. It's only gonna do good, really, because I feel like at the moment, obviously, as you're all saying, there's a massive gap after juniors. What do you do? I'm not as good as Tom Jarvis, so what do I do, kind of thing. But if those things were put into play, I know for a fact, in all the training halls around the country, you're just gonna have so much more fight and like in the country, and people are going to want to play, and I think people are going to want to do the extra bit and train harder.
Yeah.
Because do you know what I mean? And because at the moment, what is there to talk about? Like, obviously, like it's good to win a Band 1 or to if you get top of the averages in the Championship, British League or whatever, but those things aren't gonna keep a lot of people unless they like the game, like Jack was saying before, and myself. That a lot of people that's not going to keep them in the sport, I don't think. Whereas an England squad, a realistic, achievable, playing for England kind of thing, it's just going to be good, isn't it? Really.
And Jack, let's have your honest opinion of, you know, if it was available, England's second and third squad. But do you think it's a good thing? And you personally, you strive to be in it?
Yeah, there's two sides I want to mention this. I mean, I think number one, as Zach's saying there, it would be good in the sense that it's going to give that drive for juniors that they're going to want to progress under 21. It's giving you a motivation to go that next step. Because I think at the moment you hit juniors and then there's a huge gap, and there's that motivation. The only thing that I want to then build on from what Alex has mentioned is it's all good having those squads, great idea, but they can't be single entities. You need that integration. Now, I think back to my junior days that I really benefited. It was back in the day when it was known as the YDS Youth Development Squad. We'd have the likes of your Sean Cullens, your Danny Lowe's, who would be practice partners.
Yeah,
they were at the time outside the top juniors or above, and we were having them as practice partners. Now, if you had that integration where the juniors are mixing in with the 21s, the 21s are mixing in with the C and B, and then moving up to the A, that integration, it brings the standard up together. So I think, I mean, one thing that I always thought, I mean, I know it has been moving a little bit forward by Table Tennis England, that could have been pushed more, is recently in years they're having the women's national and the junior national training sessions at the University of Nottingham. Now, they've got players at their disposal, like my brother Josh, the likes of Liam that are there.
Maria
Tintin. They've always been utilised to develop the juniors that are there, that integration. Yeah. So I think having that under 21s, the Bs and the C team, you can have more integration between every step where players are getting practice with that higher level and bringing everybody up through the rank.
Yeah, definitely. Some would say that that's what happened with the Sheffield squad. And likewise, you know, VIDAL having, you know, looking after a lot of people under 21, how would that, an under 21 squad or a second or third team squad that people aspire to be part of, how would that?
Yeah, I think it just helps with that whole next step. Well, I mean, we have a lot of conversation with the students when you hit like your second year, you complete like your BTEC level 3s or your A levels, and it's now, well, what's your next step? Do I go to which uni? How many hours can you play at that uni? Accessing good coaching and everything else. I mean, it's just another pathway. I think, yeah, you always need the better players to help build the other players. I mean, I come from a club, Progress, and that was sort of like our culture. It was like when I was a very beginner, I walked into the club, and if a good player came in, like Anthony Corbin was one of the better players at that time when I was a junior, and as soon as he would walk in, he would have to give sort of like 15 minutes of his time to like the younger ones, and then every single good player. So I mean, I remember literally just going on with Corbin, playing 15 minutes, and then going to sit right next by the door, waiting for the next good player to walk in. I knew they had to give 15 minutes to us, sort of thing. And you obviously need that someone at the top to aspire to that you can practice with, and it's only going to make you better, you know. I think. I mean, Zach came to Grantham, and knowing that sort of like some of like the best juniors in the country were there when you weren't at the top at that time, I'm sure that just inspired you to want to be better, practice harder. Right, I want to play with the best person in the hall, try and be good. 100%. And now, you know, if he's in that under 21 squad, and say David Beck's at that squad, but he's at the union, he can go, right, I want to practice with David. I'm going to block him off today. You know, like it's just going to inspire people, you know, to become better, and we grow as a squad.
No, 100%. I can agree more. To play devil's advocate, right? If you propose this to someone who is a decision maker in charge of, say, this, one challenge you might get is we don't have the funding, costs too much. So my argument for that would be, so first of all, it's important to point out, only last week, the annual report, brand new report, 2019-2020 annual report, Table Tennis England was published. So please, I recommend everyone go on the website, download it, read how much they get, what they spend it on, because it's very good to be informed of that sort of stuff, rather than, saying it on an opinion basis. I think it could probably, if there was a second and third squad, so first of all, I think that you could make it self-funded. I think some seniors that would really want to be dedicated to training, I think you could make it self-funded. If funding was that much of a problem, I think having the squad and making it self-funded is better than not having it at all. But obviously the priority and the preference would be to squeeze some budget somewhere to create those squads, which have a huge impact in the future.
I kind of believe personally, I think, I don't know if it's just me, but I think representing your country is an honour. I don't think you should have to pay to represent your country.
Yeah.
I agree with that. There are people that are getting paid to be coaching these teams. I mean, I would volunteer my time for free to come and help coach some of these squads, and help these young players then progress and go forward, I think there's enough coaches in the country that would give up their time for the best of the nation to be able to help go forward. And I think that it's almost like that gymnastics thing. I think all coaches should try to strive to be better. And I mean, if you take, say, a coach of a kid that's, say, 11 years old and he's hitting that hopes thing now that coach goes with him to the England centre, he gets access to all the other coaches and all their ideas. His players are always going to get better. I think that we need all these coaches' input to come along to these centres as well and get the best out of not just the players, but get the best out of the coaches as well to help everybody progress.
Yeah. So, just out of curiosity, would you rather no second and third squad, or would you rather a second and third squad that had to be self-funded? If Table Tennis England said to you, we don't have the budget, we don't have any.
Yeah, I mean, I think with that second and third squad, a lot of players kind of need it to aim for. When they come out of the juniors,
yeah,
they need to know there's something there for them. At the moment, they don't feel like there's anything. I mean, I know you had the juniors on, and I think it's just a big gap, isn't it? I think one of them mentioned about the gap between junior national team and senior national team. And I think if they felt there was something there for them, then I do think they'd probably they would carry on, and it wouldn't need to be. It could be self-funded for just having it. It could be self-funded.
But by the way, just I can't agree more. And by the way, Vidal, just to 100% make my position clear, when the juniors now the fact that IYS and to get into the England junior squad costs the amount it does, I think that is terribly wrong, because it means that you have to come from a certain socio-economic background to even represent your country at a junior level, and I'm not a big fan of that at all. And onto this,
I've got something written down here actually, Liam, and I took it from an Ofsted report. People can go on and find this. Mm-hmm. It's called "Going the Extra Mile." It's a document that was produced after 2012, and basically, it's 41% of the UK medalists in London 2012 went to private school, and obviously, we all know what a small percentage of children in this country are privately educated. So that's a document people can go on. It's a big report about kind of private school versus state school. So 41% of UK medalists at London 2012 went to private school, but obviously that privately educated children make up a small percentage of this education. So that's called "Going the Extra Mile," if anyone wants to read that, which is quite interesting when we're talking about people paying, a lot of money to access things.
I also think, I completely agree. I think the fact that the under-21 squad, in my opinion, is sort of a must-have, because a
no-brainer. Yeah.
The fact that Joe Cope, Sam Mabey, Sam Wilson, Luke Saville, I have the absolute utmost respect for what they've gone and done. They've dedicated their whole lives to the sport. It's an amazing commitment, and I wish them the best of luck, 100%. But the fact that they're never going to, or it's unlikely at the moment in this current environment, that they'd be invited to an England senior training squad with Paul Drinkle, Pitchford, blah, blah, blah. They should be in the same hall. They've dedicated their lives to playing it. They are putting 110% in. Come on!
I mean, just on that as well. I mean, you look at 2 years ago, Joe Clark won the national championships, and I haven't seen him at a tournament at all. You know, how can the national champion at 18 not be seen? You know, like we need to retrain these players and push them forward.
Yeah.
I think just quickly what Jack was sort of mentioning there, you know, about people like working like together. So that's kind of at initially the high performance centre that was at the old National Centre in Nottingham, the East Midlands High Performance. You know, us guys, like I'd practice with like Gavin, I'd practice with like Duran, and we'd all like mix in together really. You know, like and have the 18-year-olds playing against the, you know, I don't know the age difference between me and Duran, but you know, it's like we'd all be like mixing in. And at the time, it was obviously like it was good practice for everyone because those guys were so good. Like Liam was so good. You know, he came through like later than obviously Paul, but he was a good player. And likewise, Gavin was exceptional. You know, like for us, like 18-year-olds, we didn't mind practicing with them. And I suppose at the time we were a little bit older. You know, it does make a difference. But we kind of we had our own goals, and those guys had their own goals, and that's kind of where I think you need those like stepping stones. And like what Jack said, like Josh and you know they could. I'm sure they'd go in and practice with the England juniors if they're at the university already.
I mean, I would have for pure practice purpose of my own. I was invited a couple of times over to knock with the women's team as a knocking partner, and I did that. They didn't pay me anything. It's just something that I wanted to do for my own personal benefit, and the players would do it. I mean, and like Liam's saying about having no under-21 squad or an under-21 squad that's, you know, not got any funding going into it, I would instantly say, if it's a under-21 squad that's not got any funding, that's better than no squad, hands down. I mean, all it would take is a whole and enough players that want to go. I mean, I know for the likes of Zach, I mean, you guys, I don't know how it works with the funding, but it wouldn't. I'm sure if there was an opportunity for you to go and integrate with other players at university level or in nearby areas, all around that under-21 age category, that you'd be jumping at the opportunity just to go and play in the same hall as each other.
Yeah, 100%.
I think we almost need sort of like to revert back to like those regional squads, but also for the slightly older age groups. So like some of the players then don't have to travel as far, but they can get all the best players within that region together and then practice again, you know, as well. I think that's a massive failure when all the regional coaches stopped working, that some of the setup still carried on going until it got told to stop. You know, I think those could have carried on.
100%. I think as we're coming up to an hour, we'll probably sort of stop it there. However, the one thing I do want to say is, and I think this is a unfair comment, but Josh Nashad has commented, "You guys are doing an awesome listing the problems with table tennis in England. Do you have any solutions?" I think that's very unfair, and I would like to list the solutions we have talked about to bring the show to a close. So first of all, we've listed pretty much all of the pathway programs out there, from Nottingham University to Grantham to Peterborough to Charles Reed, etc. We've listed a lot of programs and pathways, all of those ones. We've said that although there are problems with isolated teams, we think there should be better integration. That doesn't necessarily cost money. It just means England need to promote people talking in between squads. The website that we highlighted needs to be clearer and have a clear pathway, perhaps including all of the programs we've been involved with, just as suggestions or recommendations to push people in the right direction. The second or third team, we would recommend they do, even if it might have to be self-funded, but that's debatable. And the under-21 squad, you have to find funding for it. We think it's an absolute priority and necessity to improve table tennis in this country. We even went down to, talking about the regional squads. So I think that is a good summary of the solutions we have talked about on this show. If anyone watching has any questions, from Nottingham University to Peterborough to getting in to Grantham to Charles Reed, anything, please message us and reach out, because we are more than happy to help. And I hope you've enjoyed it. So unless anyone's got anything else to add.
I think, just touching on that at the end, Liam. I think it's basically like there's these private pathways out there, and all of us would be willing to, you know, sit down and work with Table Tennis England, and it's just really linking everything together. There's people that they can quite easily go to link these things together. So yeah, absolutely. We want to work with Table Tennis England, and I think that document, you know, is a really good document. I mean, it should be more front of house on the website, and it should be hyperlinked with like actually to individual pages.
Links to
where you can go to.
100%.
And
I can understand why if you know someone's listening and they may think that, you know, we talked about a lot of the problems, but unfortunately you do have to diagnose the problem before offering a solution. And I honestly do think that tonight on this program we've all done an exceptional job of providing solutions or suggestions to some of those problems.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I will say, as sort of like a player, if you're out there and you are struggling and you want somewhere, just have a conversation with your coach. You know, your coach can access other coaches. There's loads of forums out there. Put your questions on ping pong. Put your questions on some of the other forums out there as well. And people get back to you and people give you solutions. You know, like everybody in the table tennis community is more than happy to help. Like always, you know, and volunteer their time. You see it all the time.
Look, me and Alex had a great productive call about player junior to senior retention with Greg Yarnell from Table Tennis England last week. And that's because we reached out. They wanted to be engaged. They're progressively becoming more and more engaged with their members. So 100%, you know, let's work together. 100%. So thanks all for listening. Reach out if you want, and we would suggest it. So yeah, thanks a lot and see you later.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers, guys.